Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. Man. I remember when they announced this thing, and I got on the mic and sat up here and absorbed everything that they said this was going to be. And I said, and I quote, this wasn't made for me and mine. And given all of the minutiae I have absorbed about this game and where this game is going in the next couple of months, I felt that it was my duty to come on, get on the mic, and answer my own questions about what this thing is. Because let's just put up note number one. I didn't buy it. I wasn't going to. $40 is way too much for what this thing offers for me. Now, what this may offer for other people, the price may be perfect, but for $40 for what this is and what I have to offer myself in my own collection, I can do better by my damn self. So I stuck to that. But what I wanted to do was I really want to sit and really absorb the minutia of what this game was and the experiences everybody had, the thing that I don't normally do, because I wanted to come to this conclusion of whether or not spending $40 on this thing to have these things ready available for me was the right choice. Spoiler alert for the end of the video, the answer was yeah, I dodged a $40 plus tax booked. Because we can sit up here and skip anything about netcode, because y'all know I don't deal with online like that, so that's not even a factor. The thing that I do appreciate is that this collection does, to the best of its ability, attempt game preservation for the 12 games available. The problem with that is that while doing this right, you don't get exactly right. And now I'm going to explain, starting from the beginning, in Street Fighter 1. See, Street Fighter 1 is a game, the almost ultimate evolution of girl throwing star or you kicking bull in the head. I get that. The ultimate evolution of that concept is actually Fatal Fury 1. It's a long story, but the thing is that I've seen the game being played in this collection, and the one issue that I have is that with most of these games, you can't really access the dip switches or things that matter, because one of the dip switches in Street Fighter 1 is it allows you to pick from the first 4 countries and not just Japan and USA. So not having it readily available at the point when you release the video game, I don't know about that. But this is the same video game that has a day 1 patch for a training mode that half fucking works. So again, okay, yeah, there we go. When it comes to Street Fighter 2, it's Street Fighter 2. A thing that I'm going to repeat a couple of times in this informational whatever the hell this is when we sit up here and we go for arcade accuracy. The thing is, the ROMs that have been chosen. The ROMs that have been chosen are like the earliest revision of the game. And instead of what other compilations have done, mainly Street Fighter Alpha Anthology / Street Fighter Zero Fighter Generation, which allow you to mess around with those different versions of games, is that those versions of games had problems and issues that were fixed in later revisions. So the smart thing would have been to have a ROM select to go to the last version of Street Fighter 2 that you possibly could do, because this is going to be a problem later when we hit Super Turbo and you play it in one player. So remind me to bring that up again. This is mostly the same for Championship Edition and mostly the same for Hyper Fight. In the age that we live in, because I did some extensive research, quote unquote, to just figure out and just to know what my options were, because I'm getting on Hyper Fighting at this point. At this time, Hyper Fight on 360 is not backwards compatible on Xbox One. At the same time, that game is infinitely notorious for the reason GGPO exists, so there's also that. And from what people who really love Hyper Fighting for what it is say, that is majorly arcade accurate, but it just don't feel exactly the same. So in this, the collection wins because there's really no other way. Because see, excusing ports on Saturn, excusing ports on PlayStation, where there's something missing. And in the year 2018, and I've said this before and repeat it again, you have choices. Any instance in which we are speaking of right at this very moment, emulating a video game illegally because you don't own the arcade board is not a choice you have in this conversation, so don't bring it up, because I just felt that it's fair to consider. The answer is always going to be pick an emulator, put a ROM in it, play it, because that's probably as most accurate as you're going to get, except for going to an arcade and playing it yourself. This is going to come in very, very handy a couple of video games from now. So even excusing that Hyper Fighting on 360 was what it was, that was the closest to arcade perfect we had for a while. When it comes to Super Street Fighter 2 and Super Turbo, here's the issue you have. It's like, yeah, the games, all this, both of those games are, again, arcade perfect as far as I understand and know, based on people who have the right to sit up here and make that judgment for how much they play the game. Is when you think about the other games and the re-releases and ports of games like this, is the thing that you have on the side plate over there when you mention Super and Super Turbo is Grandmaster Challenge on Dreamcast, because that game is the most fully rich version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo you can play. It isn't exactly arcade accurate in a lot of ways, but because of the dumb things that that game allows you to do, it's something that anybody who appreciates Street Fighter should have in their collection, but it isn't a definitive version. Remember a couple of minutes ago we talked about earlier about arcade accuracy? The ROM they used for Super Turbo was busted as fuck, and you can't play the arcade mode in it because it's set to 8 no matter what you set it to, with something that Capcom fixed later. I've known this information from years and stuff like that, so it was surprising to me that for someone and something and this product being arcade accurate, that you would sit up here and you would do that. A ROM select would 101% fix that information in general, period. Also, in other news, playing the version of Super Turbo that's part of HD Remix is a fucking no-no. You just don't do it, because simply put, that's not a way to play Super Turbo in any way. You should never do it. HD Remix, for what it is a wonderful video game, but you never play the version of Super Turbo included. You just don't do it. There are things wrong with it because of the redrawn sprites and things, and the answer would have been back then to just sit up here and just have a mode where you just boot up OG Super Turbo, and it'd have been was what it was. And given what it is that you probably could have had an accurate arcade version that they could have been toting around instead of those Super Turbo purists, people that I love and respect, carrying around full damn boards to play a game properly. Also, in other news, is that turbo speed. You should go research that. It's very important. You know why things are competed the way that they are because of turbo speeds, because the Japanese version and the US version are very different when it comes to turbo speeds. Speaking of Japanese version, this is going to come in handy in a couple of minutes from now. The Street Fighter Alpha trilogy. See, here's my issue with that. Arcade accuracy. Let's see. There are like 50 million versions of Street Fighter Alpha 2 in general. Given that the original version of Street Fighter Alpha 2 in Japan is way different than the one we got in America because things are what they are, is they weren't going to include that anyway. That's one point to Fighter Generation on PS2. I gotta do things with my nose here. But like I said, is that being able to experience the original version of Street Fighter Alpha 2 to see exactly where they went with it, with all the stuff they added and all the extra things that came in the ports, including even Ryu and Cammy and all that good stuff, is this is just a version of vanilla Street Fighter Alpha 2. See, if I actually gave a shit about playing a video game online, why is this not a game included online? Street Fighter Alpha 2 as a competitive game is nuts to sit up here and watch and experience and be a part of. And I have had wonderful times just sitting in front of my computer back in '07 watching these old matches. I remember when I was in college pulling up matches and stuff and just watching how insane the game is. So it's a shame that in the infinite decision making of who makes decisions, here's the idea. The game that should be included in your what am I trying to say? In your training package as an online video game isn't, and you don't have the many versions of Street Fighter Alpha 2 that matter. You probably also noticed I skipped Street Fighter Alpha 1. Well, according to what things are, is that game don't exist. It exists, but it doesn't exist for reasons that we could get into, but this is not the video for that. Street Fighter Alpha for exactly what it is, because this is the one thing that I will mention. For what this collection is, please tell me why I need to put in codes to select bosses. I don't know. If you sitting up here and you were playing the games, then yeah, I get arcade accuracy. But there is such a thing as also as quality of life improvements. It would just be simple to go play Super Turbo, press the start button and all three punch buttons without doing the rigmarole of selecting Akuma, using easier ways to select original versions of characters in Super Turbo. The codes in Street Fighter Alpha 1, once you get into later versions of Street Fighter Alpha 2, you get to just press start to do a thing, which is some of the most intuitive work ever. And weirdly enough, in Street Fighter Alpha 3, you still got to do the same stuff to set up here to play as Balrog, Julie, or Junie, so it is kind of like, again, why? But speaking of why isn't the version of Upper included in this game? And people sitting up here like, well, no, that wasn't an arcade game. Yeah, it was. It was released on the Naomi. So that's an arcade game. So why isn't it on here? I don't know. I have zero idea why. Is that for was what it was, that's a game that's included, but I'm going to sit up here and tell you why it wasn't included. No one cared or gave the time to want to emulate it for you to play it so that you could play as the console exclusive characters that were a part of the original set and ports of Street Fighter Alpha. We're not talking about Double Upper or Max as you may know it. We're not talking about none of those things. No, we're talking about original Upper, which was Gaio and DJ and T-Hawk and Shinakuma and let me see who all was that. Yeah, because that was Guile. That was Gal, DJ, T-Hawk. You had like that version of Shinakuma that you could fight in World Tour mode and things like that. And you had Evil Ryu and all that old bonus stuff. And it's like all that stuff was included in the arcade version of Upper. Again, you weren't getting a World Tour mode. And even if, and I'm going to talk about this later, even if they come back to this as a round 2, that's going to be an interesting choice to really figure out what game they're going to ultimately use. Because when you get into World Tour modes, as the various versions of Street Fighter Alpha 3 that exist, here's the short answer. The World Tour versions in the Saturn version and the PS1 versions are exactly the same. Exactly 101% the same. When you get into the Dreamcast version and Alpha 3 Max and things like that, that's where you get interesting changes to what World Tour mode is, because it's technically a rebalance of a mode that could get really sillily broken if you sat up here and pricked the right powers. So in the Dreamcast and the Max versions of the games is that it just completely changes how isms work and stuff like that, because of they had to rebalance it because Street Fighter Alpha 3 had online play in Japan as part of the with a Psycho Ryu Dojo version of that game. So again, for people sitting up here saying Street Fighter Alpha was never online, you're wrong. I'm telling you you're wrong because damn it, you're wrong. Because in Japan it was. So was Grandmaster Challenge. So was Grandmaster Challenge on the Dreamcast. You can play that online too. But you can't. I don't know. Well, seeing as you can play other Dreamcast games online, that you probably can if the service still exists. And if not, somebody hack a Dreamcast that can do it. So that's kind of my issue, like when it comes to the Alpha games and stuff like that in this collection, is dumb things that you could have just done quality life improvement for us to just have the bosses selectable instead of having to press codes, because this is 2018. We're all millennials allegedly and we're all lazy. I'm just like my thing. I don't want to press down 9 times. That's why I play hacked versions of SVC Chaos, because no one wants to enter those codes every single time you want to play as a character when you're playing the arcade version. I'm just putting it out there because that's legitimate truth. Now, we get into Street Fighter 3. Like, here's the thing. I'm going to sit up here and legitimately separate New Generation and Second Impact from Third Strike when I sit up here and I absorb the minutia of what this is. Before Tuesday, the only way you could play a version of New Generation or Second Impact on something was if you owned Double Impact on Dreamcast. They never re-released it. They never did anything with it until now. I really thought that was a weird-ass glaring omission, but because Third Strike is what it is, it's kind of understandable, and by kind of understandable means I don't understand that shit at all. I don't understand why New Generation and Second Impact don't get the same love that Third Strike do. I never did. I understand and know that Third Strike is that game, but there is something about New Generation and Second Impact, and what it does is that I just like Second Impact just a little bit better than Third Strike. I respect Third Strike being what it is. I like the same way I respect Two Turbo. I love the video game, but I know that I want something different when it comes to those type of Street Fighter experiences, and neither one of those games provide what I need. Like, yo, Hoshinsho is fucking dumb. Sean's a fucking monster, and I would rather experience the games where Hoshinsho's fucking dumb and Sean's a fucking monster instead of Ibuki having a new super art and Sean being garbage as fuck, and by garbage as fuck, meaning very decent compared to other characters in the game who are really fucking garbage. So there's that. So if you want to experience New Generation or Second Impact, this is the best arcade way that you can do it. Like the Dreamcast versions, from what I've understand by playing them in emulators versus playing them on the Dreamcast, they feel mostly the same. It's just something a little off because it is what it is. Now we get into the beast right now, Third Strike, right? I'm gonna say this. You want to know what warmed my heart this morning when I got up and went scrolling through my feed or whatever? That was a grand final at Wednesday Night Fights that had Amir and Arlieth in it. That warms my heart for reasons because as growing up as a member of the fighting game community, I grew up in that manner watching these fools play Third Strike. So seeing them come out or whatever and see them come out the Wednesday Night Fights and clown like that was great. Gutex doing dirt again because like when Third Strike Online Edition, and we finna talk a little bit about that, came out, Gutex did the best he could to sit up here and show the world why Third Strike is a great game and bringing back old players. But see, here's the thing. Dear pretend savior of this community, allegedly, you shouldn't be telling people to go play Third Strike Online Edition as is a better version of the video game when it's not. I understand what Third Strike Online Edition brings to the table. Here's the thing. If Third Strike Online Edition was when they promised what it was, that's one thing. Because here's a fun fact, Internet. Once upon a time, the Third Strike on Dreamcast was going to be an accurate representation of what the original version of Third Strike in the arcade was, and then somebody at Capcom was just like, no, just totally not. We're not going to do that. Here's another fun fact. A Google search will lead you to a version of the beta for the Dreamcast version that more accurately represents what the original version of Third Strike was, which allegedly at the time when they were going through the rigmarole of promoting this game and getting you to buy, were saying that was the version that Iron Galaxy was going to use to do this game. And then when Third Strike purists got their hands on it and was like, no, they sat up here and looked at the game like, the fuck is you doing, and went about their business, and I don't blame them. So if Third Strike Online Edition was what it was supposed to be, then you get the right to say that. But when you say that, compared to when Arlieth gets on the internet and then sits up here and does the work to sit up here and say, yo, this legit. Other than maybe one or two frames of lag or whatever, this is about as arcade perfect as you get. But then at the same time, we go back to the magical answer that I said wasn't going to be an answer. If you really want to play this game, you got Fightcade. That's just the answer right there. If you want to play with people and you want arcade accuracy, you're going to get on Fightcade. Right now, everybody and their mama playing Third Strike Online right now. On PS4s, on Bones, on PC. So that's going to be where it is. And then once that sit up here and it get its shine for 2 seconds, it's going to fizzle out. And those who really care are really going to reach out to those places where people really play this game all the time. So is that you can't tell people to play Third Strike Online Edition that it's a better game in general because of what it offers versus what it ultimately needs to be, which is a competitive standard which actually matters with this game, which this collection gives you an accurate arcade version of Third Strike that OGs know what they are. Like when I'm sitting up here and I'm just sitting up here looking through my OGs and they sitting up here getting a thumbs up to this Third Strike port, and well, it's not a port, it's just an accurate emulation of, then yeah. And then that leads into the other problem that I have. Okay, how do I say this nicely? How do I say this nicely right now? This game is some weird version of Main with cheats. Because see, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I've been doing lately. As I've been sitting up here working more and more with the tech or whatever, I've been playing around in MAME and stuff. So it wasn't surprising me when I was watching videos of when you select the stage and then seeing the intended effects of what happened when you select the stage with a cheat. I'm like, oh shit, this looks familiar. And then versus mode being some save state that pops in, that's nuts. You can't sit up here and see win quotes. That's fucking stupid. And I'm just sitting up here like, yep, totally dodged $40 bullet because no. See, we talking about preservation of video games, and your answer for preservation of video games are fucking save states and main cheats. No, totally not. Here's the thing. Before we get into the rest of this, I'm gonna buy it, but just not for $40. It's not worth $40 in any way. It's just not. Because again, I have ways that I can experience Street Fighter in ways that benefit me, and some of those options aren't arcade perfect. Like, I enjoy playing Grandmaster Challenge on Dreamcast because of the dumb things you can do, like including my most favoriteest thing in the world of playing Super Turbo with bonus stages, because that's stupid. Tenakuma also fucking dumb, but being able to play Super Turbo with bonus stages is some of the dumbest shit I've ever seen, because it's like, I wonder why they excised bonus stages from Super Turbo when they had them in Super. I don't know. But that version brings them back. And I really think that's kind of the point that I want to get across. Is that while it's great that we have collections like this, there are a lot of times where they've been done better. And instead of sitting up here saying that they both can't coexist, they can. That they sit up here and they enhance each other. That being able to play a version of Super Turbo that's mostly arcade accurate, and being able to play something that's not arcade accurate in any way but fun and bring something to the table, both can coexist. One is needed to keep a competitive standard, and one is just to have joy, fun, and it is what it is with that. Here's another question that I have. If we talking about arcade video games, why isn't Hyper Street Fighter 2 in this? Like, I'm like, okay, like, if you sit up here and say Hyper Street Fighter Alpha, that was just some side thing in Fighter Generation, right? Like, that's one thing. Hyper Street Fighter 2 ultimately came out in an arcade after it was released on PS2 in Japan. That was a thing. That happened. Where is it? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense that that's not part of the collection. But see, here's the part that I've been waiting for. I'm so glad that I sat up here and A, was going to dodge this bullet because I realized this wasn't for me. But B, that this is getting an international edition in Japan. This makes my heart skip, and here's why. The last time this happened, we got the Japanese version of Shadows over Mystara, and that game blows the Iron Galaxy version out of the fucking water. Because you know why? The people who worked on the game actually helped bring that game and build up Shadow of Mystara on the PS3 in Japan. And I'm like, that's something that's a must own. That is a must own video game. Like, I have a copy, a limited edition version of that thing, because it was something worth owning. Like, yeah, if you want to play Shadow of Mystara, that you can on a 360, which I know is backwards compatible, but the PS3 version, the Japanese PS3 version, blew it out the water. So I can only imagine if what they're going to do is enhance this thing and do all this stuff with it, and they really sit up here and just wipe the table, and Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection International was just something completely different. That's what I want. That I want the international version to be what this should have been. I don't want to sit up here and be like, whoo, yo, your boy dodged the $40 bullet because, you know, if I really want to play emulated video games, I could. And given how sloppy, because this is sloppy. This is sloppy work. This is, okay, do I want to say this? This is like Mega Man Anniversary Collection bad when it comes to the ultimate point of what this is supposed to be. Because again, Mega Man Anniversary Collection is one of the worst compilations that ever exist. You want to know why? If you can't put 6 PS2 games, if you can't put 6 PS1 games on a PS2, a Super Nintendo version, another, well, technically what? That's 7 PS1 games, because that's the Rockman Complete Works Collection, that's Mega Man 8, then the Super Nintendo version of Mega Man 7, which you couldn't get Mode 7 for, and then Power Battle and the Power Fighter that you can't emulate correctly, that's a problem. I don't really think that honestly that I want to take that back. It's not that bad. It's suffice, but as a fan and as fans, we deserve better. So this was, like I said, this was an interesting thing because I just wanted to absorb the minutia of everybody experiencing this video game to sit up here to figure out like, yo, did I dodge this bullet? The answer is totally yes. I hate to say that. For real, I hate to say that I dodged the bullet by not buying something that sits up here and makes games that I love readily available. But when you don't do the proper work of encapsulating what these games mean, what they represent, and giving people options, that's the problem. I'm for real. I want international of this game to blow it out the water. I want people at Capcom Japan to be mega pissed at what this is and sit up here like, yo, we finna cook this. We finna cook this work. But this is 2018 Capcom. I'm not holding out any hope that this ain't gonna be nothing more than bug fixes that'll become part of an update later. Because, like I said this at the beginning, why adding that training mode as a day one patch? Cause I'm like, what the hell? And why is training mode only available for 4 games? But the thing is that if you really want a training mode, this game has save states and stuff. So if you really want to make your own training mode, but it's not the same and it's inexcusable. In general, I'm going to say unexcusable. That's not even a word. Inexcusable is the correct form of being excusable. It's just putting that out there. English shit. Look. I'm like honestly, for real, before we get up out here, I had my hesitations about making this because it's hard for me to sit up here and make judgments on a product that I haven't used. But when I'm sitting up here and people like, I press the home button in the middle of an online match, it's a rage quit button, and I sit up here and law, I'm like, yeah, I'm just building up for what the hell this is. And it's like I said, I'm like, online ain't a thing to me. So it's like understanding and knowing like this could have been better. I'm like, yo, you really think they couldn't have reached out for whatever? What, I don't even know what GGPO is in 2018. I don't even think it exists in that way anymore. But doing something a lot better than what this was is that this needed, for the 30th anniversary, this needed a lot more care. And I honestly feel that I hope that International Edition fixes the issues where this game didn't have care enough. But these are the same people who sat up here and brought you 2 Mega Man collections that were okay for what they did, and it's like the Blue Bomber didn't deserve that either. Neither the Street Fighter. I'm like, it's good to see what the X collection is becoming. That's gonna be off the chain. The X challenge, it got me interested to have a new way to play games that I love and being able to play Mega Man X8 again because that game is great. Mega Man X7 is okay. It's an okay game. I'm not an apologist for it, but it's an okay game. It does what it's supposed to do. It just caught a lot of people off guard. Because I was there when that game came out. I was like, what the fuck is this? Now as an old man, I appreciate it for what it tried to do, but I'm glad that X8 sat up here and just looked at it and was like, nah, we need to handle business the way business is handled. But yo, I want to thank y'all for joining me for whatever this was, but I just really want to just sit down and I really wanted to get my thoughts out there because I need to sit up here and then watch this video back to hear myself and just be like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was on. And it is what it is. And I'm like, I'm mad that I have to sit up here at the end of this and say, yo, I dodged the $40 bullet not buying a compilation of games that I would appreciate having a lot more handy. I would love nothing more than to be able to, you know what I'm saying, boot up Second Impact. But then it's like, again, the same issues that I had when I talked about Alpha. You can't select Gil in any of those games, but you could in the Dreamcast version. Like, the Dreamcast version also allowed you to select Shinakuma in Second Impact, which was a fun, dumb thing that this collection does not provide. But that's why I have a Dreamcast version and proudly own it, which again enhances the experience of being able to experience Street Fighter 3 Second Impact in ways that I appreciate. And I think that as I wipe the sweat off my brow for all the work that I've done here today, I think that's what the point that I want to get through is that this game is allowed to coexist with all the ports out there. It's like, yeah, not everything is arcade accurate, but this is 2018. We have choices. Like, I mentioned this because I'm on this tangent, so I'm going to roll with it. I remember I told a story a while back about when Cyberbots was a PS1 classic, and somebody that I used to deal with on Facebook like, yo, Cyberbots was out, and I got an ask like, yo, like what, they releasing an arcade or like they releasing something for it in Japan or something? Nah, it's just the PS1 version. I sat up here and said, and I quote, "Hug Saturn version," because the PS1 version of Cyberbots is okay. The Saturn version of Cyberbots is a wonderful experience, and it's probably as close to arcade perfect as you get without playing an arcade version of a video game. That's me exercising my choice to sit up here and play the better version of a video game. So I asked, like, when that person got salty about it, what you so salty for, bruh? What you so salty for? You have choices. It's like sitting up here with this collection saying that, like, yo, wow, this got regular Street Fighter 2 on it. Like, yo, I choose to play the Super Nintendo version. That's your choice. It may not be the most well and informed choice. It may have some bits of nostalgia in your head for how good you thought it was. But this is 2018. People that studied those games inside and out. It's like what those things are relics of what used to be. What used to be were arcade ports that could never measure up to the arcade because those things weren't built for it. At the end of the day, when it comes to that, Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast ended that. Because that game is a whole different monster than what it was within the arcade. That we've gotten beyond arcade perfect at that point. That's where we were. Is that at some point we got from video game that don't look like anything in the arcade to it looks a little bit better. It's kind of janky, but it looked like that thing that I put quarters in. It's getting a lot better. And it's Soul Calibur on the Dreamcast. That's where we went, people. We went from this don't look like shit to this look way better. And we have been better for it ever since. The only thing we've never been better for that, because this is in my brain to say this, was Tekken Tag Tournament on PS2 did not have the arcade soundtrack in it. It only had the arranged version, and I'm very still salty about that to this day, that the HD version didn't do it either, but that's based off the Japanese version, but that's a conversation for another day. So I won't do that. Look, we're going to take a commercial break. We come back, we got more show. If you bought the game, I hope you're enjoying it, but understand and know that there are other ways to experience what these games offer, and that because it isn't arcade perfect or it isn't this or it isn't that, it doesn't have the right to exist. But know you got choices. Know that you can choose with your wallet, and I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to wait for what International version brings before I make any decisions to do anything further. And maybe when International come out and we see what that is, we come back and sit down, man, I get in front of the camera, get on the mic and spit some heat about that information. But until then, commercial break. So, commercial break. We'll be back here for you on here with more show right here live on Team GRF TV. See you guys on the other side of these commercial messages. Gotta love it, baby.